When you have a situation such as this, you're wanting to find the confidence interval. So what I would recommend is sending your data to Excel because you have to find the mean and the standard deviation. At this point in the semester, I don't want you to have to find the standard deviation by hand. So send your data to Excel. It's going to open up a file down here at the bottom. Click on it, and you'll notice that it has sent your data to an Excel file. Excel has a couple of formulas that you can use to find mean and standard deviation. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to type in the word mean, and I'm going to type in the word standard deviation. And that just helps me know which one is mean and which one is standard deviation. To find the mean, I'm going to type in equals. Equals means I'm starting a formula. The mean is the same thing as average. So I'm going to start typing in average. I'm going to open up a parentheses. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to left click and I'm going to hold down and I'm going to highlight the cells where my data is. I did not release until after I had highlighted all of my data. If you're unsure about highlighting, notice that up here I could have typed in the first cell that my data was in and the last cell with a colon in between. And then I'm going to close off my parentheses and I'm going to hit equals. So 20.31667 is my mean. Now I'm going to do the similar thing with my standard deviation. I'm going to hit equals, but for standard deviation I'm going to do ST, and you'll notice that some samples come up here. I'm going to do DEV dot, and since this was a sample, I'm going to do S. If it was a population, I would have done P. I'm going to do sample. I'm going to open my parentheses, and I'm going to highlight my data again, and I'm going to close my parentheses, and I'm going to hit equals. So we have 0.86814 as our standard deviation. Now I'm going to kind of move that over to the side because I want to look at what we have here. It says constructed 90% confidence interval for the mean mineral count, round the answers to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to use 2 decimal places with my mean and my standard deviation because that's what I'm going to be rounding to. And so I'm going to come over to a different screen. We're looking for a 90% confidence interval, okay? And so when we're looking for a 90% confidence interval, we had a sample mean that was a 20.3, and if I round to 2 decimal places, it was a 2. And we had a sample standard deviation, S, that was a 0.87 if we rounded to 2 decimal places. Since we're working with a sample, we are going to need a t-value. And we had a sample size of 6. When we work with a t-value, we also need our degrees of freedom. Well, our degrees of freedom is the same thing as n minus 1. Let me put a minus there instead of it equals. So it's n minus 1, which is equal to 5. So again, we're working with our t. So I'm going to come over to our charts and I'm going to go to the t chart. We had a degree of freedom of 5. So I'm going to come to the 5 row. And if you look at the very bottom, here's our confidence interval of 90. It's the 4th column. And so I'm going to follow it up to here. So my t is going to be a 2.015. So that's going to be a 2.015. Okay? So when we are constructing a confidence interval, what we need to do is we need to find the mean, but then we need to find that plus or minus the margin of error. Our margin of error is going to be our t times our standard deviation divided by the square root of n. So in this case, our t is 2.015. Our standard deviation was 0.87. And our n was the square root of 6. So whenever we do this calculation, our margin of error should be a 0.72 if we round to 2 decimal places. So whenever we take our 20.32 and we add and we subtract a 0.72, what we should actually get is a 19.60 and a 21.04. This should technically be our confidence interval. Now we may have a little bit of leeway, especially with Connect Math, because they may allow us more leeway with our standard deviation. Now the second part of the question was asking, based on the confidence interval, is it reasonable to believe that the mean mineral content of spinach may be greater than 23%? Well, this is telling me that the mean is between 19.6 and 21.0. They're wanting to know, is it greater than 23? Well, no. We're saying it's somewhere between here. So we can't say that it's greater than 23. So no, it is not greater than 23. So I hope this helps. Again, your confidence interval may be slightly different due to your margin of error, which may be slightly different due to how you calculated your standard deviation. But again, from now on, I would just recommend using Excel to calculate that standard deviation from now on.